Ever notice how everyone's an expert these days? Your uncle, who's been divorced 3 times, has relationship advice. The friend who's perpetually broke wants to tell you about investing. And let's not forget the fitness gurus shaped like potatoes telling you how to get six-pack abs. Here's a thought that might just save your life. If you don't want their life, why the hell are you taking their advice? Welcome back, truth seekers and fellow skeptics. Today, we're diving headfirst into the cesspool of modern wisdom and coming up with something that actually matters. If this is your first time here, prepare yourself. I don't sugarcoat reality. I serve it raw, bloody, and still twitching. But tell me this. Have you ever followed someone's advice only to realize halfway through that this person's life is an absolute dumpster fire? What were you thinking? No, seriously, what made you think someone who can't manage their own disaster of an existence would somehow have the secret sauce to your success? Let's get into it. The comedy of modern expertise. We live in the golden age of self-proclaimed experts. Thanks to the internet, anyone with a keyboard and an opinion suddenly has a platform. The barrier to entry for being a thought leader is so low it's practically underground. 5 steps to financial freedom. By someone who's never had financial freedom. How to build a 6-figure business. By someone whose only 6-figure business is selling the dream of having a 6-figure business. The secret to a perfect relationship. By someone whose longest relationship was with their Netflix account. It would be hilarious if it weren't so tragically common. People are literally structuring their lives around advice from individuals whose own lives are spectacular showcases of what not to do. Think about this. Would you take swimming lessons from someone who's drowning? Would you learn to fly a plane from someone who's never left the ground? No? Then why are you taking life advice from people whose lives you wouldn't trade for in a million years? Here's the brutal reality check. The quality of advice is directly proportional to the results that person has produced in their own life. Not their intentions, not their theories. Their results. The mentorship mirage. Let's talk about mentors for a second. Everyone says you need them. Find a mentor, follow their path, do what they did. But here's what nobody tells you. A mentor whose life you don't actually want can be worse than no mentor at all. I had this mentor once. Successful businessman, impressive resume, talked a big game about work-life balance. Know where he was when his kid graduated? At a business conference in Vegas? Know what happened to his marriage? 3 divorces deep. His health? Blood pressure through the roof and a relationship with Scotch that was more consistent than any human connection in his life. Did I want that life? Hell no. So why was I following his blueprint? Are you blindly following someone just because they've achieved one aspect of success while the rest of their life is in shambles? Is that really the comprehensive success you're after? If your business idol has a failed marriage, health problems, and no real friends, is that really success? Or just a really expensive form of failure? Here's a question that might make you uncomfortable. If you could snap your fingers and instantly swap lives with your mentor or advisor, completely swap lives, not just cherry-pick the parts you like, would you do it? Everything. Their relationships, their health, their daily routine, their inner peace, or lack thereof. No? Then why are you following their roadmap? The filtered reality phenomenon. We're all consuming a carefully curated version of reality. Social media, interviews, podcasts, they all show the highlight reel, not the blooper reel that makes up most of actual living. That guru with the Lamborghini and mansion? You don't see the anxiety attacks, the failed relationships, the emptiness that comes from chasing external validation. You don't see them at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, wondering what it's all for. Just closed another 7-figure deal. What you don't see. Just took my third antidepressant today because success feels empty without anyone to share it with. This filtered reality creates a dangerous illusion. We're making life decisions based on incomplete information. It's like trying to bake a cake with only half the ingredients list, then wondering why it came out tasting like disappointment and regret. The contextual value of advice. All advice exists within a context. What worked for someone else worked within their specific circumstances, their personality, their resources, their connections, their time period, their location, their privileges or disadvantages. You think Bill Gates dropping out of Harvard is relevant advice for you? Unless you're also a programming prodigy with wealthy, connected parents and access to one of the first personal computers at a pivotal moment in technological history, maybe reconsider blindly following that particular path. Context matters, timing matters, individual circumstances matter. And here's where it gets really interesting. The most dangerous advice often comes from people who succeeded through luck or unusual circumstances, but believe it was all their strategy and hard work. The worst advisor isn't the one who knows nothing. It's the one who doesn't know what they don't know. The person who hit a lucky streak but thinks they've cracked the universal code of success. The life alignment test. So how do you know whose advice to actually take? Simple. I call it the life alignment test. Study their whole life, not just the part they're famous for. Assess all major life domains: career, relationships, health, happiness, purpose. Determine if their complete life picture aligns with your values. Ask, if I had to live their exact life, every aspect of it, would I consider that a win? Only if the answer is yes, should you seriously consider following their advice. Because advice doesn't come in neat little packages you can selectively apply. It comes from a complete worldview and value system that created a complete life. This is why I find it hilarious when people take business advice from someone whose idea of work-life balance is working 18 hours a day and sleeping under their desk. Unless you want to end up divorced, alienated from your kids, and with the health profile of a much older person, maybe reconsider that particular success template. The adjacent possible principle. Here's something fascinating about human psychology. We tend to seek advice from people who are just slightly ahead of us, not from those who've truly mastered something. Why? Because the gap seems bridgeable. It feels possible. The master is so far beyond us that their methods seem unattainable or irrelevant to our current challenges. I call this the adjacent possible principle. We gravitate toward advice from those who occupy the zone of what seems possible for us. But there's a dark side to this. Often the people just slightly ahead of you are still figuring it out themselves. They might have had one success but lack the perspective that comes with sustained achievement and navigating multiple challenges. Would you rather learn chess from someone who's won a few local tournaments or from a grandmaster? The tournament winner might seem more relatable, but their understanding of the game is vastly inferior. When it comes to important life decisions, sometimes you need to stretch beyond the adjacent possible and seek wisdom from true masters, even if their methods seem initially intimidating or complex. The advice, authenticity spectrum. Not all advice is created equal. There's a spectrum. On one end, you have theoretical advisors, people who study success but haven't necessarily achieved it themselves. They can offer interesting frameworks and research-backed insights, but there's an experiential gap. In the middle, you have the one-hit wonders, people who've had success in one specific area or one specific time. Their advice can be valuable but narrowly applicable. On the far end, you have the true wisdom figures, people who've achieved sustainable, holistic success across multiple domains and challenges. These rare individuals offer advice that transcends specific tactics and speaks to enduring principles. Where are your advisors on this spectrum? Are you building your life on theories, on tactical tips from one-hit wonders, or on wisdom from those who've created lives of sustained excellence? The success triangulation method. Since no single advisor has the perfect formula for your unique life, I recommend success triangulation. Instead of following one person's advice blindly, identify three people who've achieved what you want in different ways. Study all three approaches. Look for the commonalities. Those are likely the core principles. The differences highlight where personal style and circumstance come into play. This method is powerful because it helps you distinguish between the universal principles of success and the personal tactics that worked for one specific individual. Don't be a carbon copy of someone else's life journey. Extract the principles, adapt the tactics, and create your unique path. The shadow integration question. Here's perhaps the most important question of all. Is the person you're taking advice from honest about their failures and shortcomings? True wisdom comes from integrated experience, both successes and failures. The advisor who pretends they've never failed, who presents a sanitized version of their journey, is giving you dangerous half-truths. The most valuable advisors are those who have faced their shadows, who have experienced significant setbacks, and who have the emotional maturity to discuss them openly. They don't just tell you what worked. They tell you what didn't work, why it didn't work, and how they course-corrected. If someone can't talk honestly about their failures, they haven't fully processed the lessons from their journey. And unprocessed lessons make for incomplete advice. The life design framework. So where does this leave us? With a powerful framework for choosing whose advice actually deserves your attention, study their complete life, not just their highlight reel. Apply the life alignment test. Would you want their entire life? Understand their context and how it differs from yours. Position them on the advice authenticity spectrum. Use the success triangulation method with multiple mentors. Ask the shadow integration question about their relationship with failure. This isn't just about being selective with advice. It's about taking responsibility for designing your own life rather than outsourcing your decision-making to others. Remember, even the most brilliant advisor is giving you advice based on their values, their strengths, their circumstances, and their definition of success. Unless those align perfectly with yours, which is extremely unlikely, you need to filter everything through your own critical thinking. The ultimate irony. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and where I have to call myself out. I've spent the last minutes giving you advice about taking advice. The irony isn't lost on me. So let me ask you directly, does my life align with what you want? Am I living in a way that you aspire to? If not, then take everything I've said with the appropriate grain of salt. That's the ultimate test of intellectual honesty, applying your own standards to yourself. The truth is, nobody has all the answers. Not me, not your favorite influencer, not even the most accomplished people in history. We're all just figuring it out as we go, making our best guesses based on limited information. The most dangerous thing you can do is outsource your critical thinking. The most powerful thing you can do is develop your own internal compass and use external advice as input, not mandate. The decision ownership principle. Here's the brutal reality. No matter whose advice you follow, you bear the consequences of those decisions. Not them. You. When you follow someone's advice and it doesn't work out, they don't share in your failure. They don't help pay your bills, repair your relationships, or restore your lost time. That's why you must approach all advice, including mine, with healthy skepticism and a strong sense of ownership. Filter everything through your own values, circumstances, and goals. The best advisors don't tell you what to do. They help you think better for yourself. They don't give you fish. They teach you to fish in your specific waters. The advice paradox. We've arrived at what I call the advice paradox. The people whose advice you should most trust are often those who are most reluctant to give it. Why? Because people who truly understand success recognize its contextual nature. They know that what worked for them might not work for you. They respect the complexity of life too much to reduce it to simplistic formulas. So here's my final thought. Develop relationships with people whose lives you genuinely admire, not just in one domain, but holistically. Learn from them, but don't blindly imitate them. Extract principles, not tactics, and always maintain your autonomy as the ultimate decision-maker in your life. Remember, if you don't want their life, don't take their advice. But if you do want their life, or aspects of it, study not just what they say, but what they actually do. Actions reveal truth far more reliably than words ever will. So, whose advice are you following? And if you followed it to its logical conclusion, would you actually want the life it creates? Think about that. Really think about it. If this video made you question some of the voices you've been listening to, good. That was the point. Hit subscribe if you want more uncomfortable truths. Smash that like button if you're done with sugar-coated advice that leads nowhere. And share this with someone who needs to hear it. We all know at least one person who's following the wrong guru. Until next time, remember, everyone has an opinion, but not everyone deserves your attention. Choose wisely whose voice gets space in your head.